Working with music, I always took life for granted. It was part of the show. Now I can see that light affects people just like music affects people. I light up the city, the parks, the houses, and the streets. Light is a mood changer, just like music. With light you can make the unsafe safe, the unavailable available. Challenges motivate me. I need to feel challenged in order to grow. Changing career was a very brave step for me. I left my comfort zone. I tried something new. I'm proud of myself. People often think that more light is the best solution. It's really about finding the balance.
Good Friday morning, everyone. My name is Arto Ruotsalainen, and I would like to warmly welcome you all to our Future Cities studio. Sustainability and circularity are issues that we are all working with, whether we are urban planners, environmentalists, working with energy solutions or water management issues. This morning we are going to talk about water and circularity. Some facts for the discussions. Cities and municipalities and industries consume roughly 1/3 of the abstracted water in Europe. We have managed to reduce wastewater pollution discharges very well, thanks to improved purification processes. But still, each year, industrial and urban wastewater facilities in Europe discharge 40,000 million cubic kilometers treated wastewaters back to environment. That's a huge number, and it means roughly that it's 3 times the volume of Mälaren, which is the 3rd biggest lake in Sweden, right next us here in Solna. The EU policies followed by national and regional action plans are highlighting circular economy, also in water resources management. The questions are, can we produce less waste and more value? How far are we capturing all usable resources from wastewater into reuse? And in the end, how far are we that in the end we have only clean water as a side stream? Our topic today is more out of water. That means we have a discussion of how a city or a municipality can be more circular in their water use, what has been done and what should be done, how cities and companies can use the potential in wastewater in a more efficient way. In today's discussion, we have guest panelists from Sweden and Finland, and they will soon present themselves. Few words about the practicalities of the studio. About the program. First, I will let each panelist to introduce themselves and tell us the current status of circularity in their work. It will be really interesting to hear about solutions from Nordic perspective. On the second round, we'll discuss about the future and what kind of opportunities and challenges are we facing. And then we will continue to economy. Is it possible to do more with current or even decreasing resources? And how we can contribute to circularity and what are the possibilities to finance needed actions. This event will be recorded and published on AFRI's YouTube channel. If you have any questions during the studio or after it, please send your question to the email you can see on the screen, and we will get back to you. Now, let's move on to the first question round. We are going to talk about what does circularity and wastewater mean to our panelists, and how it has been applied so far, or how is it applied at the moment. First, we will hear experiences from Finland, from Ari Kangas. Ari, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone out there. My name is Ari Kangas, and I come from Finland, the Finnish Ministry of the Environment, and I'm working in the Departure for Natural Environment, and in there we have this unit, Protection of Waters and Sea Areas. And my responsibility there, in one word, is wastewater. So all issues related to wastewater, when it comes industrial wastewater, individual household wastewater, and the main topic is the municipal wastewater and its treatment and discharge back to the nature. And over here, this is a rough sketch made by Finnish Environmental Institute of the grand water cycle. So we have this circularity in water itself. But then I made a note with a freehand drawing to the area where water is handled in the urban area. And that is in Finland still practical, linear. This abstraction, purification, distribution, use, collection, treatment, and discharge. There are very much potential in the circularity in that area, but yet we have some cases for the recovery of energy. We have plenty of cases that is related to this water linearity for the sludge that is taken out of wastewater. It is circulated back to the nature, but there are threats concerning that sludge recovery and circulation because of the quality of the sludge. So there is need and potential for improving quality and finding out better the useful resources from the sludge instead of thinking sludge on the whole. And at present, we do give grants to projects that are developing those circularities. For example, energy recovery, the heat recovery from wastewater, and of course this sludge treatment and quality improvement. So things are moving on, but so far we think that there is much more to be done than we do at the moment. So let's see and find out the ways how to make those small important circles within this linear part of urban water. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ari, and it was interesting to hear and see the need to change from the linear water cycle treatment into a more circular one. How do you see the situation in Finland? The urbanization in Finland is still going on. That means that people are moving to towns and cities. Do you see that as a good side for circularity in water treatment or as a threat?
I think this centralization of wastewater treatment and collection gives the possibility to handle things in larger scale, and it has its benefits. But then again, when we think of the vulnerability of these grand investments, and as at present it is already partly old and needs renovation, so it's also a cost issue. And to use smaller units that do that are modified and they can then be connected together, it maybe gives opportunities, but so far in the scale of Finland, it is these big centralized units where the collection network has been already built, and it's more or less question of keeping it in shape. Thank you.
Thank you, Ari. And we will get back to the finance issues later on in the discussions. Next, our second speaker is Clara Westling. Welcome, Clara, and Clara will provide us some information from Swedish municipalities' point of view.
Yes, thank you, Arti. My name is Clara Westling, and I work at Svenskt Vatten, the Swedish Water and Wastewater Association, and we are a branch organization for all the Swedish water utilities. That is both the drinking water producers and the wastewater treatment plants. So I have a slightly more circular picture here than compared to what Ari showed, and this is what we consider the circularity of the water system, both the drinking water system and the wastewater treatment system. And as you can see, most of the circular arrows are from the wastewater treatment system. That is, we have the sludge from the wastewater treatment plants currently in Sweden. 30% approximately of the sludge is being put back on farmland as fertilizer. We have an accreditation system called REVAC. So if you're accredited according to REVAC, then the level of heavy metals mostly are below a certain limit, and the farmers buy the sludge to put on farmland, not for growing of crops to be used for consumption by humans, but for growing of crops for consumption from animals and for energy crops. We also have quite a large production of biogas in the Swedish wastewater treatment plants, quite a large use of biogas as vehicle fuels. Approximately, we are using 4 terawatt-hours of biogas in Sweden. We import 2 of them from Denmark, and 2 of them we produce ourselves, whereas 33%, a third of them, are produced by wastewater treatment plants. But here we see a large improvement potential. If we have economic incitements for the wastewater treatment plants to sell their biogas, we can produce much more biogas compared to what they are doing today. Currently, the wastewater treatment plants all over Europe are facing several I would say they have a lot of challenges facing them currently, simultaneously. They are getting stricter effluent limits. We have a really old infrastructure, both the piping system and the plants. The plants are normally from mid-1900s, and they were built only to remove unwanted elements. And now we are kind of trying to transform them into production facilities. So there's a lot to be done there. They are facing a challenge on the removal of pharmaceutical residues, climate adaptation, and also here, as we talk about now, nutrient recovery. So there are several simultaneous challenges they are facing, and they need to prioritize. And at the moment, circularity is maybe not their top priority because we don't have that much regulation on circularity. So we need more enabling regulations to increase the circularity in the water system. That's what I think.
Thank you, Clara. It was really nice to hear that you have some success stories already, but also facing and recognizing some challenges. Next speaker, we will get the insight from a Nordic energy company, Gasum. Ruuni, you are welcome.
Thank you, Arto. My name is Ruuni Kariela, and I work for company Gasum. And Gasum has a purpose in energy, in cleaner energy. And now especially the Swedish colleagues, they are wondering why Gasum is here present. Gasum is owning altogether 17 biogas plants in Finland and in Sweden. And in Finland, most of the feeds, or very much of the feeds, are coming from wastewater treatment plants. And as Clara was here stating that we would need more power in the circularity and more treatment. So Gasum is collecting from many wastewater treatment plants the sludges and treating them together with our other bio-wastes, and we can produce biogas, but we are also a very big producer of recircular nutrients to the agriculture, and also we are developing some nutrients to industries. And this is a very interesting trend that is going at the moment. I have a background in wastewater treatment, and I have said that this biogas plant is almost like a digester in a wastewater treatment plant, but we do not have the wastewater treatment plant where to put the reject water, which means that we have to take care of it with other systems. And that's why we have started, now we have the first project where we are producing nitrogen water, where we can really compensate emissions so that instead of using virgin nitrogen, the industry can use recirculated nitrogen products.
Thank you, Ruuni. One question popped into my mind. I could ask this also from Clara, but how do you see the use of biogas in transportation, and is the strong trend of electrification of transportation and electric cars, is it a threat to you?
Heavy-duty vehicles, they don't have the possibility for electricity at the moment, and it's not coming very soon. So that we see that the possibilities are in heavy-duty vehicles, and that's why we are also both producing and sourcing liquefied biogas that you can use in these heavy-duty vehicles.
Yes, I think that yesterday when I took the transport bus within the airport from the terminal to the airplane, that was operated by biogas. I don't know if it was your gas, but anyway, that's true. Okay, thank you to our guest panelists. I will now ask Andreas Lindgren from Efri, my colleague from Sweden. And Andrea, how do you see the situation from engineering side?
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for allowing me to be here. And my name is Andreas Lindgren. I've been working in the with natural gas, biogas, waste management, wastewater for the major part of my career. And there are so many different challenges within this field, so it's an exciting field to be working in. From an engineering perspective, we do have a lot of challenges, just like Clara and Ari and Ruuni said. But I would also like to bring up points that actually are on the positive side. We are moving forward, and we are moving forward quite a bit. We have examples here in Sweden from municipalities for example, on southern Öland, which is a island outside of Sweden. We actually use industrial water in a water treatment plant to make drinking water. So we're not taking groundwater or water from the sea to make drinking water. And also at the same island of Öland, we're using treated wastewater in agriculture to actually use the water as a resource for the agriculture. So it's we do have very good examples, but I think it's important moving forward and I think both the Ari and Clara's picture of the whole system that's what we need to look at in the future. We need to not look at the wastewater treatment plant as a plant by itself, but as a part of the system. So it's starting. We're starting to get there, but we can do so much more for the future.
Excellent. Thank you, Andreas. About the Öland case, do you think that this could be a very good benchmark for example, Southern Europe, where the water scarcity is going to be expected a big problem or a challenge in the future?
I do believe so. But also for Central and Eastern Europe, they need to improve the wastewater treatment plants. They need to refurbish them, get them up to the new technologies to actually get the clean water they need from the wastewater treatment plants.
Okay. Very good. Now we have heard some insights about the current situation, but also some tips also for the future part. So now it's time to look forwards. So the second question round is about the future. How will the cities and municipalities or companies, how can they approach circularity in a more innovative way? And what are the opportunities for the different actors? And now we have changed the order of answering, so I will now first give the floor to Clara.
Thank you, Arto. Yeah, but we see a lot of potential, I must say. We see a big potential in increasing the biogas production, as I mentioned previously. Our vision is that the traditional wastewater treatment plants will be transformed into production facilities that can be a service to society. Our vision for this is at the year 2050, but maybe, hopefully, it will be a work in progress, and it already is. So we are moving there slowly. We also see that the nutrients in the sludge can be recovered. We have a lot of technical development in this field at the moment. We have no regulation yet, but a lot of technical development, and the nutrients can then be recovered not only by putting the sludge directly on farmland, but also by other techniques. We also see, of course, a future reuse of the water, as Andreas mentioned, for irrigation, as processed water, and maybe even also for drinking water purposes. It's being done in other countries. We have not had the need to do it in Scandinavia up until now, but we see that there might be a need in the future. We are also in need of both limiting and regulating or enabling regulations. And a lot of these regulations are decided on EU level. So it is really important for us in the water sector in the different EU member states to really try to influence the decision makers so that we get functional regulations for a future circular water sector. Because we mentioned biogas previously. And we now see a lot of negative signals on the use of biogas as vehicle fuel, for example, in small vehicles. Of course, we have the heavy vehicles, and we also see a growing interest for use of liquid biogas in the industries. So we have a big potential there, I think. So we will, of course, I think we will have use for biogas in the future. But the negative signals are not good because they might start a story of that biogas is not a future energy source. So I think it's really important for us to try to influence the decision makers as much as we can.
How much cooperation do you do with the other Nordic countries? Do you have a Nordic lobbying towards EU?
Yes, we do a lot. We have different kind of cooperation groups. We do a lot of lobbying together with the Nordic EU member states, which is then Denmark and Finland and Sweden, because we have a lot of shared opinions. And I would say mostly Sweden and Finland, we are really similar in our water source availability, our climate, our geography. We have a big shared recipient, the Baltic Sea, for instance. So we have a lot of common opinions, but then we also have a big lobbying group, or the European Water Association, where all the national water associations go together in the European Water Association called Euro. And we also lobby through them a lot. So we have different types of lobbying groups that we say the same thing from several different instances.
Thank you. And now let's go to Ruuni. And first question to Ruuni before you go to the your future insights is that how much does a company do cooperation with the public sector, for example, for lobbying?
For lobbying, we do a lot, both via some organizations and also directly, because this biogas is a very vital issue for us. How to produce biogas, from which kind of feed materials, and where to use it, as Clara was also mentioning here, that is it for vehicles or is it for industry? But this is vital question for us. Do you have a next question, or shall I continue with what I thought?
Please continue.
Yes. As Clara mentioned, one question is that we would need more feeds for the biogas plant, so that more biogas to be produced in wastewater treatment plants, or from the sludge from wastewater treatment plants. And we are having some cooperation with some plants where we are getting the gas because we have access to the biogas market. So that, for example, from Espoo wastewater treatment plant, we are getting the biogas and putting it to the market. And what else? What are the development phases? What we are doing, especially this reject water that can be 20 to 15% of the total load to the wastewater treatment plant. When we have to clean it separately, that is one issue where we could be better on a bigger scale, so that we would reduce the cost for reject water treatment, so that we don't have to make our treatment plants so big, and we can take care of it separately. And our goal in this nutrient recycling is that we are producing level by level more advanced products, so that we don't have the only source is not the agriculture. We can have further to different industries. We can have a market there. And here I can see that within 2021, we have seen a great increase in interest in industry, both for biogas and for these recirculate nitrogen products, what we are having. So there is a clear difference what happened last year and what is this year.
Ruuni, one more question to you. Is biogas used for the heating of buildings, and are cities been interested in that one?
In some cities, yes. Not very much, but yes, we have in some places where we have a biogas plant, but there is no gas grid. There we are selling the biogas to the local energy company, and they are producing. They are heating the houses with it.
Yeah. So in many cases, it comes to the link in infrastructure from your biogas plant to the urban network.
Yes.
Okay. Anders, how do you see the future?
Well, just like said in the previous question, I think the big issue going forward is making our treatment plants into resource plants, and the most important for a production unit or a resource plant is the input. So we have to work a lot more with looking at the whole system. What gets to the plant? We must have the best available resource at the plant, and that is what the city provides for the wastewater treatment plant. So we have to work with the upstream work with the cities and the municipalities, making sure that the treatment plants get the best available resource. We have to try to decrease, and just like Clara said, work with regulations. What can the industries put into the system that gets to the treatment plant? How can legislator make industries work along with cities and municipalities in the municipal wastewater treatment plants? So that is one part, and also we have an aging network system of water and sewage. We have a lot of stormwater leaking into our system, making the wastewater treatment plants actually treat a lot of stormwater during heavy downpours. So we have to work also with the issues within the city, making sure that we actually use the water coming down and not just send it to the treatment plant, increasing the cost for that. So that is, and also I think we can use technologies much better than we have today. Digitalization, digital twins, using AI to run system models and to optimize our treatment plant or the whole city system. So I see actually great potential for the future.
Yes, I totally agree, because at least in Finland, municipalities are facing a huge, is it called renovation debt in their infrastructure, and if it's going to be updated, so these issues should be taken into account. There are huge possibilities as well. Thank you, Anders. And now we go back to Ari. How do you see the future from the Finnish point of view?
Thank you. Future is very interesting, and also now we have in the near future very interesting things going on. Now there is in EU level the ongoing renewal of the urban wastewater treatment directive, and the directive itself is old. It's from the 1991, and at that time it was developed for the water protection point of view. Okay, the water protection point of view is still there, but now on top of that there will be a lot of other interesting issues. And to start with, as we have discussed about the energy consumption of the water sector is calculated to be something like 1% of the total energy consumption in EU, which means that it's a huge amount, and there is a potential for savings, and there is a potential to recover that energy. Taking the heat energy from wastewater is one thing, and that's what has taken place in some cases in Finland. We already have heard about this biogas production from the sludge that has been taken out of water. And then we have to bear in mind, and that, as we heard last week in Nord-EVA presentations, that water is heavy, and it is rather costly to move the water from one place to another, and that is not according what I said previously about the present situation in Finland, that we have these centralized systems. And making centralized systems, it means that you just have to move the water from one place to another. So maybe from that energy point of view, we could think again about these decentralized systems. Now, making these smaller recycles within this linear water flow, where energy flows, materials in water flows, and water itself flows linear, there are potential. And to improve that, just like Anders told, we have to also look at the production of wastewater, where the wastewater is made. And now this new Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive will also take a look on that side. We have all kinds of micropollutants and these persistent chemicals. We have pharmaceuticals, microplastics, and to improve the quality of the incoming wastewater is, just as Anders told, if we think that the wastewater treatment plant is a resource recovery plant, kind of factory, then it comes to the quality of the raw material of that factory. There has been talks about extended producer responsibility when it comes to those harmful substances. So when we think of this polluter pays principle, then it will affect to those industries that produce and then discharge those substances to the wastewater. And it will help the water facilities then to make the treatment units for those substances. But like if we consider and concentrate this treatment, then it's like a post-disaster action. So instead of this rescue action, we should move to the prevention action. And thinking of these effects that this new directive will bring, we are able then to turn it to the national legislations and give the regulation that was in previous speeches asked for. And then it will help to move towards this circularity in the wastewater treatment and in the whole water cycle. We don't yet have such need for the recycle of the treated wastewater as there is a need in Southern Europe. But yes, the climate change has brought some intense drafts also in Finland, so that maybe it could be thought that we could here also in the land of thousand lakes to recirculate treated water for irrigation purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ari. We've heard some very good examples and thoughts from our experts. I'd like to ask you, the panelists, do you have any questions to each other? You are the experts on this topic. Please raise your hand if you want to discuss some issue a bit further. If not, we will continue to, say, Clara, please.
No, I saw Ruuni taking her hand up, but I have a question for Ari, but I don't know who should go first.
Continue, Clara.
Yeah, when it comes to the revision of the wastewater directive that is currently taking place, Ari, how are you in Finland working to promote functional water circularity regulations connected to the directive? Can you say anything about that?
Well, we take our part in this preparation. There are expert and meetings. There are also stakeholder meetings. It's hard to say that as a Ministry of Environment we could do lobbying, but yes, we have our share in the expert meetings, and as they are thinking what effects would be in these proposals for the renewal, then of course we have our say in those proposals. So more or less it goes by the book as it comes how ministry works in this EU decision making.
Okay, thank you. But do you also have a communication with like the Finnish Environmental Protection Agency, that might be the authority working on this, or the Finnish Water Association?
Yeah, definitely. And also those biggest plants, we have had a couple of talks. So like brainstorming or kind of asking for ideas from the Finnish. Well, actually, there was the biggest plant in Finland, their experts, and also consulting companies that do work. I think it was from Avery that we had a meeting, a couple of meetings of those topics that were raised in the beginning of this renewal project of the directive. So we don't think that in ministry we know everything, but of course we have to ask those real life experts.
That's good. And keep in mind that the sludge directive will probably be revised quite soon. And there, when revising that one, there might be a big potential for nutrient recovery, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Clara and Ari. Ruuni, one quick question from your side.
Yes, the question is that when we are talking about this reuse of treated wastewater, how much are we discussing with the industries? Because I think that the one of the best things what we have both in Finland and in Sweden, our industries, they know how to save water. And it is based on the fact that we in both in Finland we are doing as is regulated, and they are treating their effluents, and that leads to the fact that they try to get as little water as possible because it's costly. And that's also the same thing in wastewater, water and wastewater. If you are using clean water, first you clean it, or tap water, and then you are using it somewhere. You have to treat it, and then you have to pump it. But if you have wastewater, cleaned wastewater, that is already in many places it is good enough. Have we thought about that, and especially energy savings in this?
If I may say something to that, yes, industry has done a lot of work in closing water cycles and thus minimizing the use of water. And I think they are following on that path also when it comes to the wastewater that they are actually then producing and treating. There are good examples from that side. They know then quite well it is specific wastewater from their industrial plants and the possible harmful substances that there are. There is a good knowledge of that. But when we come to the municipal wastewater, it's more or less obscure, the content of this wastewater. Thank you.
Thank you. From listening to our guest panelists, I think that there's some hope for the future, and also it's encouraging to hear that the cooperation between public and private sector and stakeholders is going on. And what by using the term lobbying, I was meaning that to put the best practice and data sharing into decision making and to make a sound and sustainable future, not economic benefits as such. But we are going to economy now. The last round is about how to finance these future actions. In some municipalities, the budgets for water sector may be decreasing, but still we have to do more with less resources. So where do we get the money, the funding? What role should the state have? Is there a threat to increasing water tariffs for the consumers? And or can we see the future so that the making things circular can make things even less expensive? So the last round of discussion, and Ruuni is to start.
Thank you. It's naturally, it's very much depending on the regulations, what should be done, what the waterworks have to do, what they have to follow, and the costs are based very much on that. But I have thought that in water sector we have not been too successful in getting value from the recycled products what we have. So these sludge-based products, when in all other products, when you have recirculated products, if you, for example, have biogas or natural gas, the biogas is accepted to cost more. But we have a lot of marketing to be done to also get the value of the recirculated nutrients that we are developing to the market. That is still the card that we have not used, and it needs a lot of lobbying and a lot of marketing and a lot of work to be done from the sectors. If you take in account or think that in Switzerland they are recovering all the waste or all the phosphorus in wastewater, and the reason is that they do not want the cadmium that is coming with the phosphorus to their recirculation in Switzerland, in the country. So that we are not using the benefits that we could use.
Thank you, Ruuni.
About the cost for waterworks, I do not want to say anything.
Yeah. Anders, you've been working closely with the client. How do you see the situation with funding?
Well, that is one of the hottest topics there is. I think last year water and wastewater tariffs in Sweden went up by around 5%. And I think Svenskt Vatten has identified that we actually need to raise them by 50%. And it's a tough challenge. And it also varies a lot between the municipalities in Sweden. I think it's between 3,000 to 15,000 Swedish crowns a year annually for water and wastewater services. But again, I'm an engineer. I wouldn't look like the wastewater treatment plant as a production unit. We can still do a lot with the efficiency within the plant, using more technology in the plant. And yes, technology costs money, but it is for any industrial plant. You need to control your intake and actually have a efficient process throughout the plant. Just as Ruuni said, we need to be better at actually getting value out of the resources we can take from the plants. The legislature needs to help us out. But again, it's all about efficiency, and we've seen great examples in Sweden and Scandinavia where you actually increase the efficiency. You use less chemicals within the plant. You use less energy in the biological processes in the plant. So I think it's a combination of upstream work, making plants more efficient, and also getting more value out of your resources that you get from the plant.
So did I get it right that at the first you have to have an investment for transformation of the process, but in the long run it will give you some savings?
Yeah.
Good. And now we go to Ari, and how do you see it from the Ministry of Environment?
This question of costs and how much water tariffs should be raised, it is really difficult. And now I would like to first think of it from the benefits that we get from the good drinking water and treated wastewater. And those benefits are seldom monetized and compared what the water itself, what it costs. And my rough idea is that the water is extremely cheap in Nordic countries, but that doesn't necessarily lead to the conclusion that, okay, let's raise the tariffs. We have the opportunities, and the first challenge is that we need to keep up the existing system in shape, and that needs money. The renovation of the sewage system, keeping up the plants in shape as they are now, it's already one cost issue. But then again, if we need to purify better, we need to be energy efficient, and we need to like remove the hazardous substances. We need to recover the resources from the sludge. That's not cheap either. So there are a lot of pressure to increase the tariffs, get more assets to use in the water sector. In a way or another, it will cost. But now, using these opportunities of the circular economy within the wastewater branch, it could cost less. I'm not saying that it will be beneficial, but it will cost less and thus give the opportunities for the actors to provide that kind of renovation of the plants. And yes, there is then the possibility for the governments to help the plants, as we were discussing in these expert meetings in the EU level, considering the Urban Wastewater Directive renewal. There were already questions that, could you do this in member state? Could you do that in Finland if there would be financing from the EU? And those aspects are very interesting. So it will cost, but will it cost a huge amount of money or less than we have the opportunities to make choices? Thank you.
Thank you, Ari. And I think that the traditional cost-benefit analysis won't be suitable for circular economy anymore. So we have to put stress on the possible outcomes from circularity, and that, or actually incomes from circularity. Clara, the floor is yours. Few words about finance.
Yeah, most of it has already been said, so I can try to keep it short. But the truth is, it will cost. It will cost a lot of money. We don't know exactly how much yet. But we also have this big renovation depth of. We have estimated at Svenskt Vatten that the yearly investment spent is now 16 billion Swedish crowns per year, but the need is 23 billion Swedish crowns per year. So already today, we are not investing as much as we need. And half of the needed investments are for already existing infrastructure, and the other half is for new investments. So it will cost for sure. And the cost for water will have to increase. And traditionally in Scandinavia, we have had really low water costs, and we have had plenty of water sources available. But there is a UN recommendation that a maximum of 5% of households' income should be for water costs. And we see that we might move towards that if the technical or regulation development rate is not fast enough or enabling enough for circular water systems and the water sector as a whole. But one promising note is that Ari mentioned this Nordiva conference. That's the Nordic wastewater sector conference that is occurring every other year, and we at Svenskt Vatten arranged it this year. It was last week, and it was really future orientated this time, much more than the previous conferences. That's my experience. There was a lot of sessions about water reuse, nutrient recovery, sludge handling, and also water management and the sewer systems. So it was a really positive experience and a really future-oriented conference last week. So it was very hopeful.
Yes, thank you, Clara. And it is really nice to hear that the water sector is really looking forward together. We have 5 minutes left now. And Antti, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yes, we do. If I try to summarize, there are questions related to circularity in Europe versus circularity outside Europe. So we've now heard examples from Finland and Sweden and a bit from Central Europe, such as Switzerland. Is Europe the forerunner, or what's the situation outside Europe?
Clara and Ari, please.
At the same time. Well, I can say something about water reuse and drinking water production. We are not the front runners in that field. We are reusing water in Southern Europe for irrigation and cleaning of streets. And they are, of course, they have their own national regulation systems. We can look at them and copy them, I think. But in Singapore, in California, and in Australia, they are ahead of us when it comes to producing drinking water from a wastewater source. So because they have had to do it, they have problems in water resources. So they are ahead of us on that field.
Thank you, Clara and Ari.
Yes, that's exactly true. We had in Finland a couple of years ago this annual World Circular Economy Forum, and in Finland we had their first time water sector issues also, and this part of the conference showed quite clearly that this global south, for example, is a very good place to make new systems. Some use the word of laboratory, but I would prefer not to use that kind of expression. But where there are not such a solid so-called gray infrastructure as we have here in Europe, there are a lot of opportunities to make the circularity work, and there are good examples. Well, Clara already mentioned some of them concerning water, but also the recycling the materials from the wastewater. So we have had a lot of developments here in Europe, but this development has been made within the terms of our system. So when we go to the global south and all around out of Europe, there are opportunities to do it in a different way. And then it's maybe difficult to compare them. But yes, we are maybe successful in our own system, but the system itself sets limits to it.
Thank you, Ari. And we clearly have to look at the big picture and also outside from the Nordic point of view. It is now time to wrap up the discussions. We have heard great insights and learned that there are both huge opportunities and some challenges, for example, in funding sector. But we are able to turn waste into energy and circulate materials from wastewater and regenerate nature by returning the nutrients to the soil. Thank you very much to our guest panelists and Andreas for sharing your information, and I feel that we are in a solid path to making future. So if you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact us at AFRY, and this recording will be available in YouTube, and please follow and stay tuned in our LinkedIn channel, for example, for next news on future cities. We'll present the results of Future Cities Survey 2021 soon. Thank you all for listening and joining us, and have a nice weekend and very crispy autumn.